Oh. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third in the series of webinars for our 90-day release, re-energize, and reset challenge. And this afternoon, we have an exciting feature for you. We'll be speaking about both the mind and the spirit. And I will be dealing with the mind aspect, and my co-host Sharon Parris-Chambers will be talking about the spirit part of it, taking it from the mind to the spirit, this whole idea of re-energizing and resetting and of course releasing. So welcome everybody, and I am really delighted to be here this afternoon with you. As you probably recognize, this webinar series is a lead up to our retreat in January 2020, January 24th to 26th in Kingston, Jamaica. And that retreat is going to be an exciting program and a lineup for women entrepreneurs and leaders, and you don't want to miss it. So we will have, actually, Sharon is going to be part of that retreat, and she will be doing Qigong in the morning and meditation every evening. And myself and Tanya Smith, we will be leading the retreat aspect of the program to help you to release any mental and emotional toxic waste from your system, and to be able to set your goals for the next decade. Because as you know, January is not only marking the start of the new year, but it's also the start of a new decade. And we want to bring in new energies into our planning and ensure that we are, as women, really tapping into our creative juices, into our feminine power, in order to ensure the balance of the energies going into the next decade. So, welcome. And before I go any further, I just want to pause to especially welcome my co-host again, Sharon Parris-Chambers. And Sharon is an author, the sacred art of could you say the actual name of your book, Sharon? Sacred Practices, I think it's called.
Living life as a sacred practice.
Living life as a sacred practice. Thank you.
Living life.
And Sharon is well known in the spiritual circles, and she is also an instructor of Qigong. And if you don't know what Qigong is all about, then I'm sure she will spend a minute or two telling you a little bit about that in her presentation. And of course, if you come along to the retreat, you will actually experience the benefits of Qigong. We're going to come back to Sharon in a little while, and she's going to do her presentation. But I want to start off by focusing on the 7-day detox. Now, I just want to make sure that I actually time myself, because I have a way of, getting so excited about what I'm doing that I get carried away with the time. And I want to be able to deliver these topics and key points to you within about 15 minutes. So one of the things that I've discovered in my own life journey is the importance of being able to be the manager of your thoughts. Now, many of us have this idea that, we don't have any control over what goes on in our mind. We just have thoughts. They come at us seemingly from nowhere, and then we follow those thoughts, and those thoughts have an impact on our well-being, our emotional well-being, as well as our physical well-being, our physiology. And of course, from there we actually move into behavior. And the behavior either achieves the results we want or not, as the case may be. So our ability to really manage our thoughts and be disciplined in how we think is a very critical part of being able to be a successful individual. Now, I read this pamphlet called the 7-Day Mental Diet. It's a little book, and it's by the Reverend Emmett Fox. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of him. He's one of the forerunners, actually, of the Unity movement. And my own church, the Temple of Light, also has a lot of foundation on the same truths. So when I read this little book, I found it really fascinating because there was a great nexus between the tenets that Reverend Fox was sharing in that 7-Day Mental Diet and the teachings of neuro-linguistic programming. And so I thought to bring this 7-Day diet to your attention because it's so key in helping you to appreciate the power of the mind and how you can best use it. So let's just start off by talking about the idea of a diet. Now, when you think of a diet, I'm quite sure that you think of something that you are doing physically. In other words, a meal plan, some way, shape, or form that you are going to cut back on your calories or change exactly what you are eating and drinking over the course of a period of time, generally for health reasons. And we spend a lot of time and effort and money in focusing on our physical well-being through what we are eating and imbibing physically. And I'm suggesting to you that we need to pay as much or even greater attention to what we are feeding our minds with on a daily basis. So our diet, our physical diet affects our physical well-being, and our mental diet, what we are feeding our minds, actually not only affects our minds, but it affects our emotional and physical well-being as well. So we really have to be careful about what we are taking in. And when you think about all the news or the media, everything that we are faced with on a day-to-day basis, we can easily become really knocked off balance, disturbed, fearful even about what's happening in our own home here in Jamaica, and worldwide, what we see happening on the world stage. So how do we manage that? You know, what can we do in order to be able to bring ourselves some peace of mind and to be able not just to, you know, have a harmonious life, but actually have a very successful life. So one of the great cosmic laws is the fact that we actually do create our lives. And some of you may say, oh, what is she saying? Do we have that power? And yes, I do believe we have a divine, God-given power, which allows us to co-create with the divine in the experience of life. And what you think, that's where the power actually starts and resides. When we think about something, we tend to feel a particular way about it. Sometimes that's a very positive feeling, sometimes it's a negative feeling. And then that affects us physiologically. Certain hormones are released, and from there, we actually have a certain type of behavior. And depending on the behavior, then we get certain types of results. So it's really very important that we understand that we are in fact cause to our effect. And when we take full responsibility for our lives, it means that part of that responsibility is being self-accountable to be able to manage our thoughts. So our general attitude and our disposition, because if we think certain thoughts, you know, a lot of the time, it affects our attitude towards life. And if we have developed a very pessimistic outlook on life, then 10 chances to 1, our experiences will live up to our expectations. So how do we change that? So Reverend Fox suggested that we have to be very vigilant, and he suggested the 7-day mental diet. And the goal is for these 7 days that we will have an unbroken mental discipline, that we will really, at the end of the 7 days, have begun the process of retraining our mind, because you will probably already know that our neurological connections in our minds, when we think a particular thought, it's as if there's a circuit in our minds, and there's a groove whenever we think certain thoughts, and it becomes, after a while, a pattern. So, you know, neurons that fire together wire together, and that means that they become our habit. So our habitual thoughts will tend to end up in physical manifestations. So we have to develop for these 7 days a very unbroken mental discipline. He says if you lapse, you have to start all over again. So that's an important point. So if today is Sunday, and on Sunday evening you decide that come Monday morning that I'm going to take on this 7-day challenge, it means that you have to set yourself up to ensure that you will be able to complete this activity without any break. So it's going to be unbroken for the period of time. Now, Sharon, could I just ask you to mute yourself for the moment?
Yes.
That way, yes.
Yes.
We have some
Thank you.
background noise. Yes. Great. Thank you. So, Reverend Fox suggested these 7 things that questions that you should consider as you embark on this 7-day mental detox, I call it, this diet. So first of all, let's talk about what is a negative thought. So a negative thought is any form of critique, judgment, any feeling and which is comes from a thought of a fearful thought, an anxious thought, putting out there anything that suggests that maybe what you have planned for the week may or may not work as you had intended it to. Any sort of thoughts of, you know, what if an accident occurs, anything pessimistic. So there's quite a range of things that could be going on in your mind, and you have to be very vigilant to recognize them. Now, the important thing is to understand, which is the second point to bear in mind, that there are thousands of thoughts that will perhaps come into your mind during the day. So they may pop up from time to time. The important point to remember is that even if a negative thought comes up in your mind, don't dwell on it. Let it pass, because once you give it attention, that is when you will, in fact, be giving it power. So even though something comes up and it's negative, you can simply say, stop, and turn your attention to something else, because it would be impractical to think that every single thought that comes into your mind is going to be a positive thought. So negative thoughts will come, but you allow them to go. You don't give them any attention. And by not giving them attention, you ensure that you keep your power and the power of the positive thought. So first of all, recognize the negative thoughts. Second, don't dwell on anything negative should it come up in your mind. And you might be asking then, thirdly, what of any challenges which you are currently having or that you may experience during the week? Because, of course, life isn't just, always a bed of roses. Things are going to happen, and that's real life. So how do you manage those situations? The thing is that, again, you have to be disciplined and steadfast in your thinking process. So a challenge comes up, a problem comes up, something that, for a moment disturbs you. It's the ability and the discipline to recognize it, but not accept it as the truth of who you are. So there's a challenge, there's a problem. One way of looking at it, well, if a problem has come up or a challenge has come up, that must be because there's already a solution to it. So if you have that kind of mindset, then anything that comes up for you as a challenge or a problem, you will be able to solve. If you take on the perspective, on the other hand, that, oh, woe is me, I have another problem, I have a challenge, just when I didn't need something else on my plate, what on earth am I going to do? If you take on that mindset, then you will have broken your diet. So anything that comes up, you have to be able to keep your power and consistently speak your truth, that if there is a challenge or a problem, there is always a solution. It's only for you to find it. So to accept that these things do come and there is no need for us to fear them. That's the important point. Number 4. Now, all of us have people in our lives that are not necessarily very positive. Persons who may aggravate us, persons who perhaps we recognize are pessimistic, maybe are very negative. They're always the naysayers, the ones that are always seeing, not through the rose-colored glasses. Everything is gloom and doom. And when you come in with your nice cheery self, they're the ones who are going to, really say, well, what's making you so cheery today? We have to have a strategy to be able to deal with those persons. One strategy is, if we can, during this 7 days, avoid them. I'm not saying you can always, but during the 7 days, just to get ourselves, the momentum going, it would be good if you could. If you cannot avoid them, then we just understand that there is a way, just like the problems and challenges that I spoke about earlier, to be able to speak your truth and to simply say to them, for example, thank you very much for sharing that. And today I am actually in my own truth, and my truth is that I'm in a joyous state of being. So that's one way of dealing with it, if you can't possibly avoid them. Number 5. Now, something that happens even physically, often when we are ill and we are taking like homeopathic medicine, and we may get to a point where it's called a healing crisis. It's as if everything starts to accelerate and you feel worse. It's similar often for people who begin the 7-day mental diet detox, because as you start to change your energy, remember you have a certain energetic profile, a certain vibrational signature. And if you are now in the process of changing that from being more pessimistic, more judgmental, sort of thinking about the worst case scenario, and you now are taking on something that is contrary to that, then often what happens is that there's a heightened sense of, difficulties, of fears, of things that go wrong. Now, your role in that is to simply recognize it and to let it go, to just simply appreciate it, just like in the physical wellness program, that the healing crisis actually brings forth a renewed self. And in the same way, your mental healing crisis will bring forth a new you. So just being able to accept it as part of the process, and to recognize that you are shifting, because sometimes if things don't, shake up a little bit, then they remain the same. So just a note to self to understand that this often takes place. And as the Bible says, judge not according to appearances, but judge righteous judgment. And so the ability to judge that situation as a necessary part of the healing and the detoxing, that's an important point. Number 6, keep your diet to yourself. There's some things that I believe are better not shared until they are fully established. And I suggest to you that, and so does Reverend Fox, that keep this diet and the process that you are going through to yourself, unless you have, perhaps an accountability partner who is going on the same journey with you. Now, that would be good. And in that case, then you will have shared it with them. But generally speaking, when you talk about, sharing what I'm doing with others, keep it to yourself. Keep it, very much as an internal thing that you are doing to help yourself, and it keeps you centered. And often when we share things with other people, there is sometimes some pushback. And that's why we say keep it to yourself, so that the new diet can take root before you share it. Now, just to remember that nothing that anyone says or anything that happens to you can really throw you off your diet. It is you who decide whether you're going to stay on it or not. So this 7 days is really about nurturing and developing your own thought muscles, if you can think of it like that. It's training your mind to completely change your outlook and your thinking. Once you have yourself now established in the practice of always thinking positively and not paying attention to the negative thoughts that crop up in your mind, it becomes a habit. And I can tell you, sometimes people think it's very irritating when you always respond with, oh, well, a problem comes up and you automatically say something like, I guess there's a lesson in here somewhere. Or where there's a problem, there is a solution. A lot of times people get irritated by it because it actually challenges their own way of thinking. But once you open up to this way of thinking, you'll find that your life is a lot smoother, a lot more harmonious, and a lot less stressful. Because instead of giving your attention to those things that are very worrisome and problematic, you open yourself up now to the experience of being able to be in control of your thinking, in control of your emotional state, because your mind, your thoughts affect your emotions, and your emotional state, you're not kind of being pulled and pushed all over the place anymore. You are centered, you are focused, and you are able to achieve, to manifest in your own experience the things that you really, really want to see in your life and to experience. So that's my sharing for today. And I'm going to stop here because I'm just about used up all of my time. And I'm going to now turn over to Sharon. Remember to unmute yourself and to ask her.
Thank you, Liz.
to come forward now and to speak about taking this idea of your well-being out of your mind and into the spirit.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be with this audience, and we look forward to seeing all of you at the retreat, January 24th to 28th in Kingston.
26.
24th through 26th in Kingston. I am a non-denominational minister. I don't speak about it a lot, but I'd share that with you. And one of the chief ways that I wanted to share was through writing and poetry with persons around the world, wherever I am. I've been a truth seeker for all of my life, since being an adolescent here in Jamaica. Leaving Jamaica, returning, I found I've gotten greater wisdom over the years by being insightful, spending time asking myself questions and seeking or waiting for answers to appear, and continuing to do research and going within through meditation and mindfulness. I've been able to learn a lot about myself, and I'd like to share some of my findings with you this evening, right? We're going to take wellness out of our minds, and we're going to place it into a new space. We're going to renew our spirit and our consciousness. We'll start with who am I? Then we'll go into mindfulness meditation, affirmations for wellness, and sacred practices, which will help to transform the mind, body, and spirit. So we start with who am I? And before Liz gives me the time up, I need to cover everything I just told you. Who am I? This is a question that poets, bards, truth seekers the world over have asked themselves. And it's time for us to ask ourselves too, so that we could step out of the box and really open up our consciousness, our mind, to find who we are. So we're going to look within, from within out, to find that person. We are going to use meditation and our imagination, visualization, to really come up with the answer to that question of who am I? And then you're going to write it down, and you're going to become very well versed in all of that, your conception of yourself. The passion test is a way that you could use also. Elizabeth is a facilitator of the passion test by Janet Bray and Chris Atwood, and it's passiontest.com. And so we can use their formula for discovering about yourself. It's attention, intention, or you start with intention, attention, no tension. And so the intention is what you want most in life, what you're passionate about, and then what do you want to create? All right, so you're going to use your imagination, your mind, to create that which you want. Everything that exists in the world has come from that sphere of the imagination, right? We're not talking about the active mind or the passive mind necessarily, but we're talking about the conscious mind, and maybe also in the dream state, the unconscious mind, where ideas appear in symbols. And also in our wakefulness, we try to put everything together. A good way to do that, of course, is journaling. So we go to attention. Where do you put your attention? It's important, because where you put your attention is where the focus will be, what life will give you back. Let's look at your top 5 passions. That's what you look at. And then you will focus on conscious awareness and a focus of what it is that you want. Just 5 passions at a time, you write those down. And then no tension. You'll take massive action to achieve that goal, those passions that you've identified. And you'll reach a point, Janet says, of surrender. What do? Do you give up? Do you get confused? No. She says, let go. Let go of these tensions and let the universe dictate the details, right? So that's a nice way of looking at it, yes? Because we all get to the point where we really don't know. We're writing, there's a writer's block, so you have to go into the block, and you can start just writing, I have a writer's block, until something shifts, and then you start writing again. When you are clear about what you want will show up in your life. That's what Janet says, but it sounds a little like Wayne Dyer. So becoming clear is a process, and that's what you're going to work with. It's like if you want a clean house, you got to dust, get rid of the cobwebs, you know, and you'll throw out the garbage, and you'll have a clean house. We want to clean the mind, get rid of all of the baggage that we carry with us on a day-to-day basis. So the mindfulness meditations, the affirmations, and the sacred practices will reveal themselves and will be shared with you. And they're all part of the transformation process when we renew ourselves. Yes. And we're going to do that in this lesson that I'm going to share with you on page 91 of Living Life as a Sacred Practice. Discover yourself as a source of creation. And it reminds you what the mind is. That is a mental construct. And Sigmund Freud told us that it was comprised of the id, ego, and superego. These are facets of the psyche or the personality, right? What we think and do. And then comes along Carl G. Jung, and he tells us about other processes or archetypes that are a little bit different. He tells us about persona, the mask, the shadow, and the anima and animus, showing us that there's a little bit of male and female in all of us. And of course, he focuses on an integration of mind, body, and spirit. So there is no longer a sense of a disconnection that Freud would talk about, or repression, you know, or something you would hide. The key now is for persons to be all that they can be, to open and explore their inner being. So how do we renew our spirit? Well, we must go outside of the confines of the rush of the conscious mind. Go outside of the mind, outside of the conscious mind, and where we no longer intellectualize or hide behind a mask of life situations, but we deal with the reality of things as they are. One of the things I say in the book is that we must pacify the mind, because the mind is like a monkey, and it goes back and forth on different things. So what we want to do is use meditation to focus. And so we're going to go through a little meditative process to share with you just how that can be done on 5, 10, or 15 minutes. Whatever time you have, you will have to use that to keep yourself balanced and focused. So in meditation now, we're going to retreat to our inner temple to get in touch with our divine being, which is the fertile ground for your potentiality, for your creation of those things you want to manifest in your life. I want you to open your heart to one love, universal love and acceptance, and to use the sacred practices which I teach and which are available in all sacred books. And I'm sure that you have some that you already use in your life. Deep breathing, Vipassana, different forms of breathing are helpful to get into that state where you're relaxed. And using affirmations. The one that I choose for this lesson is, I am breathing and morphing into conscious awareness of myself as one self, one divine being, part of universal flow. And a prayer by Muji comes to me, and I'd like to share it with you. It says, Divine Spirit of my being, rid me of ego, the feeling of separation, and merge me with you, who are my own self. Isn't that a beautiful feeling? Not to have the divisions of the mind and the circuitous mind, but a peacefulness within. Yes, that will help you be one with the universe and one with your own self, focusing on the things you need to create. So I'd like to say, how's my time?
You're good. You're good.
Yes. I'd like to take you through a sacred practice now on page 74, where you begin by being in total alignment with the universe, We let each thought that fire into your consciousness and every divine action be in harmony with peace and love. You begin with the 2 or 3 deep breaths and exhale. On the third one, you say, ah, as in hallelujah. Ah. In your sacred space, you would do this for 10 minutes, breathing in and exhaling with a long exhalation of ah. And surprisingly, you will come into a relaxed state of mind very, very easily. During the day, monitor your thoughts and see where you're going. You can easily find a moment to go back into that deep breathing and those sounds which are resonating within the heart chakra. In the evening, we'll ask you to choose Om, as in Shalom, or Om, the Buddhist sound, Om. And as you say it, it's resonating in the throat chakra, and it's resonating in the heart chakra as well. It's a little dark here, and I'm looking for an opportunity to gain some more light. Theo? I'm sorry. Theo? 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 Can you come in and put the light on? Okay. Liz, I apologize, but there is no one here to turn the lights on in the place where I'm using the internet.
Yeah, that's okay.
So in the evening, it's the Oms. Yes, thank you. The sound that's resonating within those areas of the body. And as it resonates, it's beginning to heal those areas. And so as we're doing that for 5 to 10 minutes, we allow the sound therapy and energy to relax, make us relax in our being, and we find a quietude. And we can sit in stillness, look at a candle to center the eyes, and breathe. And in that area, during this time, have a pen and a notepad nearby, and of course you can write whatever arises. I thank everyone for tuning in and listening to simple ways that we could get in touch with our divine selves, learning how to balance our thoughts, keeping them from being like the monkey mind, jumping around. We want to be focused and targeted and achieve our goals and objectives. And over to you, Liz. Look forward to seeing everyone again. And my blog is sharon-chambers.com. And of course, to access the book beforehand, and I hope that all attendees will have a copy of that book. We'll work hard to make sure you'll have it, so we'll be using it during our meditative periods. Yes, and it's www.amazon.com or www.balboapress.com, BALBOAPRESS.com. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Sharon. That was wonderful.
Very welcome.
I think I found myself sort of drifting off there into my own meditation. So very, very calming and a great way to start off the week. So I wanted to say something about Sharon's book, and everyone who actually registers and comes to our retreat in January will get a signed copy of the book, Living Life as a Sacred Practice. So, make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity to register for the upcoming retreat. There are only 20 spaces available. And so it's going to be a really intimate affair. And apart from our meditation, Qigong, and retreat exercises to help you to prepare for 2020, I should say, then we also are incorporating trips around Jamaica and Kingston, because it's a mind, body, soul retreat. And we want to give everyone, whether Jamaicans or foreigners, we want to give everyone a taste of all that is on offer in Kingston, the cultural capital. Now, many of us Jamaicans have not visited some of the places that we'll be going, or at least not for a very long time. We'll be going to Port Royal. We'll also be going to stopping at Devon House for a famous Devon House ice cream. And then we're going up on Saturday evening for dinner at Eats restaurant, which is up in the wonderful, cool, luxurious Blue Mountains. So everybody have to take a wrap as we enjoy the salubrious climate up there, and very exciting and vegan options that will be available for persons there. On the Sunday evening, we have a very special treat, which would be a cultural evening, and everyone on the retreat will be a part of that, as well as a mentor band. We'll be playing a live mentor band and oldies by none other than the Meritones, the very famous Meritones. For the Jamaicans, we are very familiar with the Meritones. So it's a complete 3-day package for the mind and the body and the soul. And I really look forward to having you all be a part of that very special retreat to set the tone for women leaders and entrepreneurs going forward to make even a bigger difference in the world. So thank you all very, very much for being here this evening and sharing. Sharon, thank you for sharing your meditative practices.
I apologize for the blackout.
Yes, that's all right. We could hear you at least. And for also mentioning, about the passion test, because yes, I am a passion test facilitator. And in fact, I really do believe that, people gain a lot by being able to better understand self-discovery. And in fact, that whole piece of self-discovery is a component of the retreat. So those persons who register for the retreat will also be able to participate in the pre-retreat coaching activities, wherein you will get the opportunity to do the passion test yourself and the purpose test, and also to be able to find out more about your wealth creation style. You'll have access to the Wealth Dynamics profile assessment, and you will also have 2 one-on-one online coaching sessions with me. That entire package is called the Insight You coaching package, and that is a prelude and included in the package for the 2020 retreat. So make sure that you come on board and that you pay your deposit early. That is by the middle of this month, so that you can get access to that online coaching program and be fully prepared for the retreat in January. So thank you all very much for being here. And if you have any questions at all, if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at nlptrainingjamaica@gmail.com, or you can find me on WhatsApp at 876-556-5177. And my website is www.limitlesstransformationja.com. And of course, you can visit our Facebook page, which is the 3R retreat. That is Release, Re-Energize, Reset, Retreat. So there you have it. Thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. 7 days, your mental diet. Remember that this week can change your life. Just 7 days. Bye. Have a wonderful day and rest of evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Sharon.
Bye, Liz.